Yep.
It's good to see everyone.
It's good to see you.
I'm glad you're blessed.
I didn't go clapping.
Call the commission meeting to order, and our invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Commissioner Baker.
Could you stand, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and I thank you, Lord, for the fellowship that we have here. And Father, we ask for your guidance in making decisions. Lead, guide, and direct us. And Father, bless everyone in Christ's name. Amen. Let us stand for the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Present.
Commissioner Garver,
Here.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Lamb.
Here. You had in your packet the February 21 commission meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Well, you already seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. You also had the February 28 commission workshop minutes.
I
Are
make a
those-
motion we accept.
Second.
Moving ahead of the game. I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. This is the time we've set aside for comments from our citizens. If you have something you wish to share with the commissioners, please approach the microphone and give us your name and your address.
My name is Shane Kelly. I live at 5845 Ed Can Drive in Grindstone Estates. I moved here from Wyoming about 6 years ago as a pipe fitter to help build the Walker plant. And I moved to Collegedale about 4 years ago. And ever since then, I've been trying to save up enough money to acquire a shed for my tools. Well, I finally get the money saved up for this shed. I get a permit from the city to get it. And I pay a guy $400 to move it to my property. And 2 days later, I'm told that it's out of code and it's going to have to go because it's some brand new code. Okay. So I'm almost 58 years old. I work 55 to 65 hours a week. And I'm pretty much in a constant state of exhaustion. And so I didn't take this news very well. You know, after I got a permit to bring it here, nobody said a word about this brand new code. I got a permit for it. I move it here, and then they tell me it's got to go. So I admit freely that I lost it. I got very upset, and I tried to call the code inspectors. Nobody would answer the phone, and I was pretty angry, and I left some messages on his answering machine that were never returned ever. And 2 days later, I was arrested. I didn't make any threats, but I did make my point. I got to tell you that a friend of mine did some research, and the last time a shed fire occurred was 24 years ago. Okay, so when I got to warn people in general, and especially the legislation bodies, that America is sick and tired of overregulation. We are sick and tired of board bureaucrats trying to bubble wrap the entirety of society. We've had it. We've all had it. I talk to a lot of people about this, and the first thing that ever happens when I even start talking is they start shaking their head. Even police officers told me they won't live in Collegedale because of all the covenants and the codes, and it's just crazy. There's so many people say they didn't leave Collegedale, they fled because of all the overregulation, all these covenants, everything's got to be perfect, 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 perfect.
And
Okay,
just a
well-
reminder, you have 2 minutes to speak, your total time, so.
Right, okay, so,
You're talking about people are fleeing, but more people are moving to the city. They can't find housing because Collegedale is the place to be.
right, see, but the thing of it is, it's wage discrimination. When you have all these codes and all these covenants and everything, a guy that just makes a regular wage doesn't have much of a chance. We just want to live. We just want to be left alone. A shed burned down 24 years ago. So now I have to spend another $1,000 on my shed. I talked to a person at the shed that builds shed places down here. A person ordered a custom shed, had it moved onto site to be told that it had to go. Then they had to send it back to the manufacturer, wait 8 weeks to get it up to code, probably cost them a couple $1,000. So, when does it end?
So I think the code you're talking about, it has to be fireproof. Is that correct?
Code number 1077.
I don't work with the codes that often, but I've heard that, all you have to do is put 5/16 drywall.
Yeah, I have to tear out my shelving. I had to tear out all my benches and put in, and you say that like it's a small thing.
No,
I work all the time. I work all the time. And it's not fair to just keep adding codes, adding laws. When do we have enough? When do we have enough laws? When do we have enough
If
bubble
you're-
wrap on everything?
If you're so unhappy here, my question is why?
I can't leave because my mobile home is old
Okay,
and I can't sell it. If I sell it, I have to move it, which means it's going to be worth about $1,000. I lose my entire investment.
okay.
So I just want you to know that the people are tired of it. So that's what I got to say. We don't, just because we can legislate, doesn't mean we have to legislate.
Well, and that's a state building code, not a Collegedale, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That was,
Is that a state building code?
It's a
Local ordinance?
well, we adopt the state building code by reference.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So yes, thank you,
Came
Sam.
from the
So
state.
there's basically going to be no end to it.
There was a local code that was changed with the mobile home ordinance section where the Grindstone Estates and other mobile home parks had concerns about a mobile home being brought in and another one being brought in and their porches being too close. And so an update was made where they could be closer together and a shed could be put anywhere on that particular lot. But in order to do so, they'd have to put 1 hour fire rated drywall or other protective measure for safety measures so that wouldn't catch the full home on fire or adjacent mobile homes.
Okay.
and if I
well,
remember
completely
correctly, Andrew,
surrounded
wasn't,
by sheds that have no such thing.
Well,
So
some of
should
them
I-
were there
or should I
prior
do-
to the code, and so they are grandfathered in. Whether we like the grandfathering or not, that is the right of, that we have,
Andrew,
that we
So-
have to deal with.
wasn't
So
that
my new
revision
shed is much more.
initiated by the owner of Grindstone Estates at the time?
Yes, and they're the ones that supposedly tell people before they bring a shed in, hey, ma'am or sir, you're gonna have to do this with regarding a shed before you put it in. It has to have this particular fire rating for drywall or other protective measure where it does achieve that 1 hour rating.
They did not do that.
That falls on their responsibility, because I know there's, I'm just going to say for my neighborhood, we don't have sheds out there because it was, when it was first built, it was in the plans that we couldn't have sheds, we couldn't have front yard fences. So we moved in with the understanding, we were
Right, so-
notified up front.
So basically, I mean, I thought we lived in a free country.
We do, but we also, you got to understand,
People own
talking
property.
from
They should
this-
be able to,
you're talking some, and
You
I'm
know-
going to say this, and this is it. And I understand wholeheartedly, but
if I had my choice, I would live in a cabin in the woods.
the thing is, we have ordinances and things that what we base them upon is prior to you coming and even newer people coming in, it was to enhance the growth, make it better place to live in because ordinances need to be made. So
Make-
we were getting from the other spectrum of what you're talking about, where they were wanting some things done in order to protect the individuals that were purchasing homes and so forth. And that's what we did. And we followed state guidelines for that. But, and I'm sorry that this has happened to you, but it should have been, it's negligence on the part that should have been notified when you first purchased it,
Well,
because
if I
of
could
what's
say
in there.
anything, just don't legislate just because you can, please. We've had it. We've had enough.
Thank you.
We
Thank
understand.
you for sharing with us. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go on with our agenda. Unfinished business, there is none. We have new business. The first item is approval of the airport maintenance agreement.
Good evening. What I've got for you here, the state of Tennessee in the TDOT, they have a pavement maintenance program that we've been a part of for a long time. And they're looking at doing some maintenance on the runway pavements, doing seal coating and remarking, which they do periodically. There is no money out of pocket for this. We're signing an agreement that's allowing them to do the work for us.
So no money exchange.
No money, 100% paid for by TDOT.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
We need more of those.
We do.
All over the city.
Okay. Okay. Any comments or questions?
And Sam, I'm sure this is a standard, agreement.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
It's already been done,
Did we hear a motion or?
already
I
done.
missed it, huh?
And
I'll
second,
I'm sorry, you guys.
come on.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes,
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the Touch Sky events and promotion to manage our July the 3rd Freedom Celebration.
So we're asking for approval to spend up to $25,000 with Touch the Sky to help us with the Freedom Celebration. In years past, it was the Chattanooga Market that filled this role, but since they've stepped back to focus on their downtown activities, we're working with Touch the Sky to have them step into that gap.
Can you tell me who this group is? I've never heard of them before.
Touch the Sky is owned by Shannon Wright. It's the same person that does the Apple Festival and the December Tinsel Festival and all of those.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Do we have this budgeted?
Yes.
Move to approve.
second,
We have a motion and a second for approval. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
yes,
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next one is approval of July the 3rd fireworks contract.
So this is year 3 of the original contract. Initially, it was going to be $27,000, but due to material escalation, it has gone up to $33,000. So we're asking for approval of up to $33,000 for the fireworks rather than shortening the show.
Is that covered in our budget item?
The $6,000 is not. It was budgeted at $27,000.
And it was a third of the show would be reduced. Is that what it was?
10 minutes. of
10
it.
minutes?
Right around. So it was, because there was so much of, the mobilization's still the same, the setup's still the same, and shooting it's still the same. And so this extra $6,000 is going straight to mortars to keep the show the same length. We thought it was the more value decision.
I'll
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
yes,
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next item is purchase approval for the police department body cams.
So as we discussed in the previous workshop, the agency is suffering from some technology equipment failures due to outdated technology, problems with our current vendors, et cetera. So what I'm requesting, I've reached out to Axon, who we already are currently working with for our tasers. And I got a budget or a quote prepared for 32 body cameras. body worn cameras that will facilitate all 26 current full-time officers and allow us some additional units for reserve officer to use when they're on duty, as well as some spares if we did have one damaged or go down and needed to send it in. So that includes all the equipment we need, all the extended warranties, all the software, server space on their cloud. And in addition, it's a 60-month or 5-year program. So it spreads the payments up to 5 equal payments. It gives us kind of a set budget line item to prepare for over future and upcoming budgets. And the technology resets as far as the program. So at the 2.5-year mark, we'll get brand new cameras. And then at the 5-year mark, we'll get 32 brand new cameras. So the technology is constantly staying updated and up to par. So the total cost is $133,240.15 for the 60 months. And that breaks down to $26,648.03 for the next 5 years.
Okay. Any comments or questions for?
So
Chief?
how many reserves do we have currently?
Currently, we have 7 or 8 right now. We're budgeted for 15. We're getting ready to do interviews this week to hopefully fill those vacant spots.
So every reserve will not have a camera.
They will not have a body camera because, quite frankly, they don't necessarily need them per se because they won't typically be all working at the same time. And so then you have body cameras just sitting at someone's house or not being utilized. So there will be some spares for them to use. And then we do plan on maintaining at least some of the digital ally cameras, these cameras, for a while, because we're going to have to maintain at least a piece of that for the current evidence and data that's currently stored on that server, just for pending cases, et cetera. So we will have some of those still available for them to use as well.
My personal opinion, anybody that puts a badge on needs to have a camera. And I was very vocal. I don't think our officers are doing anything wrong. It's more that if somebody jumps you, shoots you, and if you get in a chase, there's 2 guys. I don't know if your policies does a part or reserves have to go with the full-time or can they go separate?
They can go separate as
And
long
that's
as
my-
they've
that's my
had a certain
concern.
amount of training. And we ensure that those officers that are soloing patrol
Yeah.
have access to a body camera.
So how much is one camera?
32,26,000.
Let me see where it's at.
You break it down that way.
It looks like it's about $699 per unit just for the camera.
So for one lawsuit, and Sam probably could back me up on this, one lawsuit, you're probably talking about somebody accused somebody of doing something wrong, and I believe our cameras would prove otherwise. You're talking probably $25,000 case just for legal fees, or?
Well, I mean, your insurance would probably cover it, but you have a $5,000 deductible.
So
I mean,
why not get extra cameras?
I have a client across the river who's got a case right now, and the body cameras help them out a lot.
And I don't know if you remember, our very first cameras we had, the big old VCR tape boxes in the back of the patrol car.
Yes, sir.
Stopped a Corvette in our city, and it saved us because it proved that our officer, Lee Cargill, did nothing wrong. And so I think it's for $700, why not get extra cameras?
Yeah, well,
I'll leave that up to
I'd be
Steve.
happy to get an updated quote for 41, at least 41 units, which would be, we would probably need a couple of extra.
Do you think I'm overstepping my recommendation, or?
I mean, not necessarily, Commissioner. I mean, it's just, we typically don't upfit the reserves necessarily with every piece of equipment that a full-time officer gets. Number one is just because of cost, quite frankly. And number two is, if you have an officer that's only working 16 hours a month, then the rest of that time, that's just a camera sitting on someone's shelf at home or not being utilized. And we do make sure they have access to spares and to wear when they do come out and work patrol, or they're with a full-time officer that has body worn camera and in-car camera. So that's not something that we've done in the past typically for body worn cameras. But
So-
it's certain,
I mean, wouldn't it be, I mean, if you have some extra ones, when your reserve officers come in, just require them to put one of the extra ones on and then turn it back
right,
in.
which was what we've been doing. is-
So-
is there's,
As long as they have one and that you're unbending policy that everybody who's on duty.
I just don't want an officer to get out there, reserve officer, and not have a camera.
On 4th of July is usually when we use,
about the only time where we would probably not have a body camera on every single officer would be an event like 4th of July, or if we had some type of catastrophic event here in the city and we called everybody in at one time. But
So very quick math, just on the extra 9 cameras, looks like it runs $8,000 a year, so $40,000 over the course of this contract. So about
But
28% more.
excuse me, how often would all 9 of them be out at the same time? I mean, that's, if you have 3 extra and you can rotate them, or 4,
for them
3.
to be all, again, you're talking about one time a year, maybe, and that would be at the July 3rd or the fireworks event.
Well, if you don't have one, you'll be with somebody that does. There's,
Yeah, but the
They're
problem
often
is if they go
tandem.
separate ways in a chase,
No.
or you're in a shootout.
but this is not during the 4th of July. There'll be lots of other policemen around.
I
mean,
don't
there-
think you're getting it.
I know about the patrol stuff.
Yeah.
I'm no problem with that whatsoever. But I don't think all 9 of these guys are going to be on patrol at the same time by themselves, correct?
No.
Never.
but to the vice mayor's point, at 4th of July, if they get into a foot pursuit, they could get
Well,
separated.
Yeah, or just say it's a weekend where you're gonna have a lot of people out.
So how many of the old camera systems do we have that are operational that we can keep?
Operationally, I mean, Booth, where are we at on the digital ally cameras right now?
We probably have 20 to 22 units with the digital ally body cameras functional right now. Because you have to keep in mind, we had I think 7 units of custom signal that we purchased last year that's just not in.
The custom signal units just aren't functioning. They need to go away. The digital ally units, again, we were planning on maintaining at least a portion of those because they're operational. Most of them are going to be, beyond warranty, but the custom signals are a little bit, you need to order this part or this piece and repair as opposed to the custom signals would be. So they would certainly, again, there would be Axon body cameras available, and then we would have the digital ally cameras that we kept also available. So-
To your points, would it be okay to keep would you be comfortable with keeping the digital ally camera?
I just want a camera on every single
Yeah.
officer when they're in the patrol car.
So during the
And
4th
that's
of
what you're saying you
July,
can
you
do.
would have some of the older cameras that the auxiliary could use if they didn't have a new one.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody would have one.
So you will have a camera on every patrol reserve.
I mean, yes.
Because you don't know from week to week or day to day how many reserves you're gonna have out at night, right?
Well, no, I mean, but I can typically tell you from experience that,
No, I get that,
we
but-
might have 1 or 2 reserves a shift at best throughout a day. We
Yeah.
might have 1 or 2 extra on the weekends. We're not seeing situations where we have, 3, 4, 5, 6 reserve officers on duty at the same time. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen because it certainly potentially could. But again, the digital ally cameras would be utilized to fill those voids. Now, your question was, are you going to have a camera on every single officer? Well, that is certainly my intention.
Mhm.
But if I'm counting on keeping, say, 15 digital allies for however many officers, and then 5 of them go bad the day before the fireworks, then I won't have cameras on every officer. So I can't guarantee you that. That's certainly the plan and the intention is to have them there. But if there was some type of
So how many
catastrophic
extras
failure,
are you gonna have in case an officer falls, breaks their camera or whatever?
we'll have 4 spares for the reserves to utilize, and that's just in the Axons. And then you'll have the additional digital ally cams that we plan on maintaining on top of those.
Okay. Commissioner Garver?
How many are those?
The one point you made at the workshop that I felt was very, very important and valid was one of the best thing can happen is for everybody to go through the same train at the same time and everybody be able to utilize other people's if something happens to theirs and not have to take a bunch of time. Well, what kind do you have? Well, I don't know how to use that kind. What kind? So to me, that's a huge plus. And if we need 2 or 3 more, I can understand that, but I don't see why we need 9 more.
Well, I didn't know how many total he had. That's why I was asking the
Right.
question.
Um,
My only concern is Sam can attest to is one lawsuit, one officer that's a reserve, you get separated for whatever reason. Somebody took one home by mistake and there's not one on the shelf for them to pick up. If we had 4 or 5, one lawsuit would eat up that.
I completely agree. And again, the plan was to maintain enough digital allies cameras so
Yeah.
that.
But you got 2 different technologies you're having to keep up. And then you're
Correct.
having to keep that up for how many years after you finally stop using those? Is that 7 years?
It depends on but yeah, you're looking at 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
But
if you all go the same one, you can get through that pretty quickly.
So how's this going to impact our budget?
And how much did you say it would be extra?
8,000 a year?
Rough
No,
numbers.
one time.
No,
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 $8,000
$8,000 per year, $40,000 total over the 5 years to add the additional 9. And that's just,
Oh, it's
rounded
not
numbers.
$800 or $700 to buy them, and
there's also the warranty side, because keep in mind, you're actually buying 3 cameras, not 1 camera as part of the contract. And then the cloud storage and data management.
yeah,
system.
you're increasing your data management, you're adding warranties, you're adding the clips, et cetera. So, and that's, again, I think the rough 8,000 was just for the cameras. That's not including the licenses, the additional licenses, the additional, equipment that you'll need for wearing them and that sort of thing.
So are we
Well,
talking more like about 40,000 a year?
I
5
took
years?
the 32 cameras divided by, $23,000 or 20. The total amount you have estimated divided by 32 cameras times 9. And that's where I came up with the 8,000 roughly. And then it's 5 years.
So how's this going to impact the budget?
So this being a contract, we will catch it in the subsequent budgets. This year, this is over what we had initially budgeted by around just under $10,000. So we'll catch that. in
How much?
amendment. Around $10,000.
10,000?
So, Chief, the digital ally cameras, the officer has to turn those on manually.
Yes.
So, and the Axion, from what I've talked to with other agencies, those can be programmed to turn on with blue lights, door opening automatically. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
So it's user friendly for somebody who may not be wearing it all the time. I mean, a reserve could be wearing one of the older cameras and then forget to turn it on. And now you're in a situation where they are wearing a camera but forgot to turn it on. But the Axon camera would automatically be running in a situation that, with adrenaline, with somebody who's not used to doing it. So it might be worth, as the vice mayor is saying, to avoid lawsuits.
well, maybe we don't do the extra 9. Maybe we'd make it 5
Or 3?
or
I was going to
something.
say 35, yeah,
3.
get up to 35 total.
35. So- But the one thing I will say about Chief, he does his homework.
Yeah.
He'll let us know what he needs. And for us to, I appreciate the conversation very much. I think we need to have it. But I think if he requests something, and I think it might be okay to expand that a little bit, but I appreciate what you do and how you do it. So,
I'm certainly never going to say no to equipment in most cases.
right,
But at the same
I
time,
understand.
again, my whole thing is, if you tell me, hey, let's get a quote for this many, I'll get you a quote and we'll look at it. My only caveat to that is the vast majority of those times, and Vice Mayor, I understand your point is very valid. It just takes one time to not have a camera, and I agree.
Yep.
But the vast majority of the time, that technology is just going to be sitting at somebody's house and not necessarily being used because it'll be
We
assigned
need
to
to get
them.
those reserves out working more.
I agree, and I'm working on that.
So
Is,
I was going to say 3 more to get to 35 would give you every current reserve plus 1 spare. That's where you would.
It would, if we got to 35, then that would give us, 26 for the full-time officers. 2 of them are going to the codes enforcement officers. So that if I'm doing my math right, where does that leave us? 7 at that point?
Mhm.
7 extras that would be available to reserves. Or if one got broke and had to be shipped off, then we could issue it out to the full-time officer until the new one came in or got repaired.
Another quick question. Are the ones that we have now, are they of value to anybody? Would there be on a marketplace that anyone would?
Yes, we can certainly look
Purchase.
at, I mean, our kind of goal at this point is to try to surplus anything we
Right.
can. We've been pretty successful this year with doing that. We're working with another auction company here locally that has great success in doing that. So our intention is, as we're getting new, to surplus everything we possibly can
I love it.
and at least generate some money back from it.
And some of these small communities may love to get a hold of some of this stuff.
Yeah, now, again,
For
some of the digital allies are a little older than others.
Right.
The custom signal products are relatively new, so they might be worth a little more, but we don't have a great many of those units right now.
How much is this covered by the federal funds that we're getting?
So the federal funds are fairly open for expenditures. I mean, it's where we choose to assign it. Our approach with doing the 5-year contracts was that these would be typical annual budgeted items, basically as the cost of doing business, just like uniform expenditures or firearms and training, rather than just making it a one-time large purchase.
Okay, so I thought there was something in this that some of the federal funds was going to cover part of it.
That's the radios.
The portable radio.
The radios, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know this is outside your area, but could codes benefit from having,
They're getting 2.
they're getting two in
So
there?
that while they're in the field, they'll be wearing them.
Okay,
and
that's
we
in
ro-
addition to what you're.
So that's,
presenting with us.
their 2 is included in this quote.
Their 2 is included in that 32?
Yes.
So I would definitely feel more comfortable going to 35, just because now if with 2 different agency or departments, something could go wrong, somebody could forget to leave one. I'd be comfortable going to 35. I will say that I'm very supportive of this, especially doing them all at once. No one is being chosen over the other. The morale is going to be great, that everybody gets new equipment at the same time. So thank you for your hard work in putting this together in pretty quick time to us. But the vice mayor does make some good points. To have some in reserve would be beneficial.
So can we give a kind of a range and what?
Yes.
So
What
we
was
I
don't,
think
we
they
don't
could just
need a
vote to get
new
35,
quote.
right?
Yeah.
You could just vote to get 35 and then we'll update you with the final number when it comes in.
Okay.
And how soon would they be operable was ours?
Well, Axon has indicated as far as the body camera goes that they can ship those out within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it'll just be shipping for the body camera. So, once we get them in, and get everything up and running, then I would say, 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Uh,
So it won't be a long process.
no, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Any more discussion? Are we ready for a vote on this?
I move to approve 35 cameras.
And I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for 35 cameras. Roll call, please.
With the 5-year integral program that you've discussed and outlined.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next item is car cameras for the police department.
Okay, so again, the same situation with the body cameras is what we're dealing with the fleet. Multiple systems, or at least 2 different systems, multiple complications with the custom signal. Pretty much, as I indicated in the workshop, basically 100% of our current fleet has a camera that needs to be repaired or replaced. So looking at that and working again with the 5-year plan through Axon for 36 cameras. The total for that is $335,836.80 over a 60-month plan, which would be $67,167.36 per year to be budgeted out, in our normal budget over the next 5 years. That will again update all of our current fleet, most of our line cars that about 7 line cars that we use on a regular basis. And that'll also leave a spare unit or two for potential future purposes, and then a unit if we had to take one out for whatever reason to reinstall while we're waiting on the new one to come in. The same plan, it's resets at the 2.5 and 5 year mark. So again, you're getting brand new cameras at 2.5 and 5 years. This includes all the cables, calls the install fees, the software, the data storage. It's kind of, one-stop shop. And additionally, part of the technology that we're getting, we'll actually be able to utilize the Verizon Air cards, the SIM cards from those Verizon, and place them in a unit, and it will actually turn the whole car into a hotspot. And it's supposed to enhance the signal and make it much more reliable through their technology. I know that Chattanooga recently switched to similar technology on their cars and has had great success with it. So that's also part of the Axon package.
Do the cars for planning, the codes get those cameras too, or just the police cars?
Just the police cars.
Okay.
How much do we have budgeted at the current time for these kinds of, for the car cams?
So this year for the car cameras, we budgeted, I right around 26,000, and that was for the 5 cameras for the new cars we just bought. And then, Booth, can you help me out on I know we looked at the numbers earlier for body cams, but it was kind of.
So we spent all that money, or do we still have some we can reduce
have
to
not-
67,000?
We have not spent any of the money that was budgeted for the 5 new cars.
Okay.
And in their negotiations with us, as part of their incentives, Axon actually worked with us to say, okay, how much have you spent on this and this? And they gave us some deductions in that to kind of help offset the cost. So for the 5 new in-car cameras, no, we have not spent, because we budgeted based on the custom signal units, and those were around $5,400 a unit. And those units came with a body camera and an in-car camera. That you got both for 54, 55, whatever it was. So we haven't spent any of that money yet.
So there would be some to reduce from 67,000. That wouldn't be the total that we need this year to make this happen, correct?
There would be some reduction, yes.
Okay,
Well, I'd have to
because of
see.
what's remainder from last year, the budget.
Right.
I think the positive to this is
Yeah.
that, one, you get to you know what you're going to have. The cars are getting new cameras every 2.5 years. And all the department, we're doing what you asked last time, your depreciation budgeting that you're
Depreciation.
talking about. We're planning
Yes, yeah.
out for the next 5 years that this is what it's going to cost us and not just guessing.
Yes.
And so I really appreciate the wise use of money, because if we've been budgeting $26,000 to $30,000 every year for a new set of cameras for 5 cars, what's the fleet at? How many cars are in the fleet?
Well, I mean, we have a total of 47 entire vehicles in our fleet, but about 35, 36 of them have in-car cameras.
So for $40,000 a year more, the entire fleet is going to have
Right.
a new camera.
New technology,
Up to date.
up-to-date
Right,
technology.
yes, and it's resetting, and again, it gives all of us, a fixed line item to look at in the budget, and we're not trying to guess, well, I need 10,000 this year, I need,
What kind of
12,000.
increase for inflation is built in? Like, just let's say that at year 2.5, cameras have gone up 15%. Are we set at that contract price?
Our
no matter
price
what?
is locked in for 5 years, it'll be this rate for 5 years.
Because what we're doing now, we're at the mercy of whatever cameras are going for. So that's,
If we
Correct.
can get them.
yeah,
And that's if we can get them.
yeah, if we can get them.
So any increase would come in the next contract?
Yes,
After 5.
5 years.
after 5
After
years,
5
any
years,
increase would come into the.
And I'll
next
say the
program.
body cameras and the dash cameras saved a stop that we saw in the news where Corporal Strange was accused of something that she didn't do, and that saved us greatly. So with that, I move to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second for the car cameras. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. And our next item is approval for police radios.
Oh, my bad.
What would we do without you tonight?
Oh, I'm hoping you don't run me out of here after all this is over with. So
I will say, how many places argue about increasing the cameras and not decreasing?
So, and again, in the continuing theme of replacing and resetting our technology, we have a need for new portable radios. We have 29 older units right now that aren't the latest and greatest. We're seeing some failures in them. We're having some wiring issues. Officers are complaining of dead spots around the city, which we haven't really seen in the past. According to the radio shop, they're doing everything they can do. So we looked at getting everybody the APX 6000s, which is what I'm wearing, which is pretty much or is the newest radio, to get every single officer that's full-time and all reserve officers. So everybody would have the exact same newest radio. We need 30 units. And so the total for that, for 30 units plus chargers, body mics, all the stuff you need, is $157,088.70. That is a one-time payment fee, and that is the money where city manager and I had discussed, and he indicated we could use federal COVID funding for this purchase.
Would that be 100%?
Yes, the money's opened.
That would cover the whole thing.
Yes.
I'll move to
Bless your
approve it.
heart.
I'll second.
Second. Free.
Spend
If it's not
somebody else's,
coming out of our budget, you like it,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
spend somebody else's money. Well, we put it there too.
It's
though,
our
so-
It's our
money.
money.
Yeah, it's our money too.
We
yeah.
put it in there to begin
Right.
with. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the police radios. Roll call?
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yay.
Vice Mayor
Yay.
Johnson, Mayor Lynn.
Yay.
If this is 100% paid for, you sure we don't need 3 or 4 more?
The
I mean,
COVID money doesn't get any bigger.
I'm trying to go
So
sit down
we're
while the
spending
game-
it here by taking it from something else.
good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
But I
Chief.
think he's brought up a good point. You need at least 5 more.
Okay, our next item is reports from our city administration.
Nothing to add tonight.
Okay. Commissioner White?
I don't think I have anything tonight. Thank you, Chief, for your hard work. Oh, and I guess I do have a question. In regards to the conversation we had earlier about the buildings and people being grandfathered in and whatnot, those buildings are at a different setback from the other trailers and the current sheds are being allowed to be put at. So even though they're grandfathered in, they're still further away from neighboring and adjoining buildings. Is that my understanding on what we did?
Yeah, the problem that we were having is some mobile homes were being brought in and the porches were on opposite sides, but there were some that the porches were facing each other. And that's why a change was made to the ordinance to allow for that closer proximity. I think as close as 10 feet that porches can be from each other. But as part of that was the whole shed thing. So that way they would have the flexibility to put it wherever on their property.
So I guess my for the record is that the current ones that we said are grandfathered aren't grandfathered at the same closeness as the current ones that need to be fire rated, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's no way to tell because there have been ones that have been put in there for a number of years.
But they were under the old guidance, which couldn't have been as close to each other as the current code allows.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure when we say grandfathered that we're not picking and choosing who gets what. It's
Yeah, and
That
we've
fire
explained that to
safety.
Mr. Kelly before. Jeremy explained to him politely that we can't expect of him what we don't expect of someone else. We have to have consistency where enforcement is concerned.
no, I just wanted that clarification for the
Okay.
record. Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Commissioner Garver?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I felt like his communication with us this evening was very appropriate, even though I heard about some of the previous communications that weren't. So, yeah, I think I still have most everything we talk about. There are little things, and I'm not sure it's a little thing. That's why I want to bring it up. The people parking on Main Street at Ocoee coming south, they're still parking within 6 feet of the corner, 8 feet of the corner. is there anything we can do, or does that have to be state? Because I know last time we talked about it, you said it's 25 feet to a corner to have someone park. There's no signage. There's a pole right there on the street, basically, a pole. There's people parking within 6 feet of that pole, and it really is a blind spot. It's very difficult to see people coming from the south to the north. So what can we do about that, or can we?
We can look into it further, but like Eric explained, last time the state came in and changed how we had set it up previously
On the other side, that's across the street.
on the other side.
But don't we have codes about parking within so many feet of an intersection?
We have a sight triangle.
I mean, I agree with
They're on top.
Commissioner here. They're right there when you're trying to pull out.
I'll coordinate with Eric and see what we can do. It may be as simple as putting up the reflectors again and no parking signs and letting the state come adjust it as they see fit.
Because
What-
if you're in a small car, there's no way you can't survive. I mean,
What about making that street one way so that you cannot come out onto Main? They would have to go around the block to come in onto Main Street again. Because that is really a blind corner with all the people also turning into the post office.
Is that street in the city? I don't remember.
It goes up to Pearl.
I'm not
Mhm.
sure where it
Yeah.
is in the city and where it's not off the top
It
of my
it
head.
goes up to Pearl.
Right.
Over. I don't know. if it
I
goes-
thought that street and all the land behind it was in the city. I'm not sure the paint store is in the city.
The paint store is not.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure about the street,
Mhm.
about Ocoee Street on that side.
Give you some homework to do.
So
We'll expect a report at the
Okay.
next workshop.
oh my badness. One more thing. The park down the street's looking great. The parking spaces, I mean, it's coming along, and I think once it gets done, I don't think there'll be any people in here protesting what's happened here. I think it's going to be a very welcome addition to our community. I appreciate that.
yes.
I've heard comments from individuals living in the high rise, how nice it looks.
Really?
And that surprised me after all the conversations we had.
They must be on
Yeah.
third floor, not
Get some
first
grass
floor.
growing on it. It'd be nice.
Yeah, so anyway,
The walkways in, so that will be.
Yeah.
nice for them to
Yeah.
walk to.
Commissioner Baker?
I do have one question. I was going to ask Eric if he was here, if you would relate to it. Going down Little Debbie Parkway, down by Wolf-Teeter Bridge, around Burger King and all that, off over, before you pull over to go under. I know we have people that live there sometimes, but that is really up in the woods in that area. As you come down, you can just see a lot of trash.
Mhm.
And it's like the wind's just blown it away, and I didn't know who is responsible for picking up all that trash.
So a lot of that's the result of the last flooding event, and we were
Yeah.
waiting for the ground to dry out enough to get a dumpster down there, and now it's raining again. So after it dries out, we will take a dumpster down there, and we will work with Public Works, and the police department will coordinate with some of the individuals that stay down there
Yeah,
to pick it up as we did before. And then Eric is getting some pricing to do some erosion control work down there
yeah.
that will make it more difficult for that volume of material to be left down there under the bridge in the future. So that's our longer term plan.
I mean, I understand. I mean, it looks like it's because of flooding, the weather and so forth, and it's mangled up all in the bushes and the trees and so forth, but it is kind of getting knee deep.
It is, and we're really waiting for it to dry out enough to be able to get down there
Okay.
to clean it, and then we are working on a longer term solution that nothing will ever be perfect, but that will make it
Well, that would
less in
help,
the
yeah.
future.
So I had a call this week that a group wants to go down there and clean it up because they had the same concern, the trash.
Mhm.
Are we open to having people go in there?
Absolutely.
But they said, like you did, it would have to dry first. So.
Right.
Let me know and I
And
can
there
help.
was another group that was also thinking about doing so in about a month or so.
Yeah.
But really, we're at the mercy of the weather, and it looks like it's going to rain off and on this whole week.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Well, let me know, and if I can help, I'll be glad to go pick up trash. I don't have a problem with that.
You can sign up
Anyway.
right here.
Well, sign me up. Sign me up. Yes, sir.
Since we're on that topic, I just wanted to bring to your attention and thank Christina in my department and Emma and the group of folks who volunteered in another portion of the creek, and Johnny is here. I believe he was there Saturday in the creek cleaning up some of the storm damage from 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So that was a volunteer group led by my department. So I just wanted to, thank them for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I'll help next time. If I had Saturday morning open, I would have been down there in the creek.
Well, when something's like that, let me know. I got people I can draft in, and I'll be glad to go do myself. And I have a family that they don't mind helping out at all because they still consider this their community.
I recently received a survey from the state about trash in our area, and I was proud to say that our Public Works does a very good job of keeping our trash picked up along the litter and so forth. But it's the first time I'd gotten that kind of survey. Some of the others I've deleted.
We have come a long ways. I think we have an excellent
Vice
employees.
Mayor, do you have something?
Eric's not here tonight, so I got some takeaways you can take to him. The potholes by the old industrial drive
Oh,
on
yes.
Absent Pike, you can lose a car in there almost.
Mhm. There's two right
And
together.
yeah, it seems like Absent Pike, right there where all the trucks are coming in from Absent Pike across the railroad tracks going towards the old city hall, that road is pretty rough. And I don't know if there's anything we can work with the state to get taken care of, but it will vibrate your car to death.
We can bother them again. The state's going to say it's part of their current contract with Wright Brothers, and Wright Brothers is going to say that they're not going to throw good money after bad to fix it more than once. But we can make a little noise.
Yeah, well, the potholes definitely got to be fixed because I'm surprised people haven't been complaining already about it.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
I could go
That's
swimming.
at Old Industrial?
um,
And that's at Old Industrial Drive?
mhm. I can never remember.
You can't
the name.
miss them.
Yeah.
I could go swimming.
Um, secondly,
Mhm.
Eric was working on some signs for the fire department and public works. No parking.
Mhm.
But the challenge is public works on a weekend will have no cars in it, but the fire department will have 4 or 5 cars from bikers because we don't have prohibited parking.
Mhm.
I thought we were going to put those signs up there, and I think it might help on that barrier going into public works if we had a sign that says, parking prohibited.
Okay.
We had a call the other night where there was a fire and a lot of parking from the fire department, but there was a lot of bikers in our spots as well.
I'll follow up and see where we are with the signage when it
Yeah,
get it put in.
that's all I have.
The only thing I have is right now there's a debate going on between our two candidates for our new district, District 10, going on at the Commons between Dean Morehouse and Jeff Ebersol, if you're interested in going down to hear what they're saying about how they would guide us through our new district. So if you're interested, it's currently going on. That's all I have. Do I hear a motion
Move to
for?
adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
We got on to that.